Welcome to today's Explainer. If you're a focused learner trying to figure out why you might be struggling with self-doubt, anxiety, or maybe intense perfectionism in your adult life, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're exploring some truly profound insights from breakthrough life coach Lisa A. Romano. We're going to be looking specifically at the adult impacts of childhood emotional neglect, especially from a narcissistic mother. But more importantly, we are going to map out exactly how you can begin rebuilding that self-trust that was taken from you. It's a powerful journey, and I am so absolutely thrilled to walk you through this material.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Is it me or is it them? This is the core confusion that just plagues anyone who grew up in a narcissistic household. I mean, think about it. The person who was supposed to be your protector, your confidant, the person who had your back against the evils of the world, was actually the person you needed to fear the most. When the person your entire being is biologically wired to crave and love is unstable, or highly critical, or just defensively angry all the time, you're left in this constant state of second guessing. You actually start wondering if the way you were treated was even worth complaining about, right? You literally start doubting your own feelings.
And that confusion? It's deeply rooted in a stark, crazy contrast. Because to the outside world, a narcissistic mother might wear this completely flawless mask. She might be the chief of police that everyone respects, a beloved church pastor, or, the head of the PTA who everyone thinks is just the absolute best mom in the world. But behind closed doors, her private behavior is an entirely different story. She might fly into a sudden rage when no one else is looking, yet she wouldn't dare act that way in front of a neighbor or a coworker. Witnessing that stark difference between who she is in public and who she is in private, it's incredibly mind-bending for a child. Which leads us directly to this really profound concept. What happens when your inner reality violently clashes with external reality? The whole world is telling you, your mother is so great, you are so lucky. But your actual lived experience of her is cruel, minimizing, and emotionally exploitative. This clash absolutely destroys your trust in your own perception. You're left asking, well, whose reality is the real reality? Hers or mine? And here's the thing, when a child is forced to choose between trusting their powerful parent or trusting themselves, they will always abandon themselves just to survive. That right there is exactly where your self-trust was broken.
Let's move to part 1 and see how this builds. Symptoms of broken trust and how childhood neglect actually manifests. Because that broken trust doesn't just neatly stay in childhood, right? It dictates a huge range of your adult behaviors. Take isolation, for example. If you couldn't trust your very first role model for love, you learn incredibly fast that people, in general, are just unreliable. And this often develops into what's known as lone wolf syndrome. If asking for help as a kid made you feel like a burden to your mom, you learn to just stay in the shadows and do everything yourself. So today, you might actually work to your own detriment and completely refuse to ask for help, because doing so triggers that old childhood shame. And this severely impacts your self-worth too. I mean, why would you take care of yourself if you were never assigned any value? If your mother was indifferent to you, you internalize that you just aren't valuable enough to be cared for. That creates this desperate subconscious loop of seeking approval from the outside world, all because you never got that healthy mirroring as a kid. Another major symptom is the overwhelming need for control. When you have a parent who is emotionally ungrounded and raging, you just don't feel safe. So as a child, you try to control the only thing you possibly can, yourself. You suppress your emotions, you push them way down and pretend everything is fine. You fawn, which means becoming overly accommodating just to keep the peace. Or you completely freeze. And in adulthood, this childhood survival tactic can morph into strict, rigid control. It can show up as eating disorders, severe anxiety in relationships, or being incredibly stringent about time and schedules. It's all because you were terrified of feeling as out of control as you did when you were young. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most frustrating adult symptoms, repetition compulsion. Why in the world do we sometimes attract partners who are critical, minimizing, and devaluing? Now, consciously, you would never, ever choose someone who treats you like your parent did. But subconsciously, you've got this unmet childhood wound. You're giving off a very specific energy, and you attract what feels familiar. You are subconsciously trying to finish unfinished business, trying to finally win the love of that critical energy. This is exactly why you might catch yourself rationalizing a toxic partner's bad behavior, much in the same way you used to rationalize why mommy was angry or pushed you away. Now, for many female adult children of narcissistic mothers, there's a very specific, often hidden symptom, and that is the secret fear of motherhood. You might be terrified to have children of your own because you're secretly afraid you're going to repeat the narcissistic cycle and put a child through what you went through. But I want you to consider this beautiful insight. Having this fear actually demonstrates tremendous empathy for a child you haven't even had yet. If you are worrying about this, the chances of you being a narcissist are incredibly slim. This fear isn't a flaw. It is undeniable proof of your empathy. So, the crucial point is in part 2, subconscious loops, why it's mechanical and absolutely not your fault. You see, the really important thing to understand is this. These behaviors, the lone wolf syndrome, the repetition compulsion, the fawning, they are not character defects. They are mechanical, subconscious loops. We literally lack the data in our brain for how to love the self. Your fundamental sense of self originates from what your creator thinks of you. If the very divine vehicle that gave birth to you couldn't tolerate your needs and rejected you, your brain literally did not form the neurological pathways required for self-trust and self-love. You aren't broken. You are simply missing the data. This is as much a neurological journey as it is an emotional or spiritual one. Your brain was wired to seek approval and survive chaos. You didn't do anything wrong. Which brings us to part 3, the solution, and retraining the subconscious mind. Okay, now that we understand the actual mechanics of the injury, how do we take our power back? The source material outlines an incredibly clear framework for recovery. Step 1, honor how you feel and honor your perceptions. Remember that clash between inner and external reality we talked about? Well, the fix starts by deciding that your inner reality is valid. Step 2, give yourself full permission to feel everything without any minimization. If it hurt, it hurt. Stop talking yourself out of your own pain. And step 3, consciously assign value to yourself. Because you were never assigned value as a child, you have to actively step up and do it now. When you assign value to yourself, it suddenly becomes so much easier to practice self-care and set firm boundaries.
Now, what's really interesting about this is to actually execute those 3 steps, you have to aggressively block external invalidation. You have to stop allowing the outside world to dictate what is appropriate for you to think. Narcissistic parents love to use guilt trips, right? Telling you that you grew up well-to-do, or saying, oh, look at the starving children in Africa, you have absolutely no right to complain. We're essentially taught to devalue our own experiences so the narcissist can remain in control of our perception. Rebuilding self-trust means firmly shutting down those external voices and trusting your own internal compass first. Ultimately, the absolute most important validation you may have been waiting your whole entire life to hear is this: you are not ruined forever. And it's not your fault. Everything you feel right now is a completely normal reaction to an intensely abnormal, painful upbringing. It is exactly what happens when a child feels rejected by the being that was supposed to protect them. You aren't crazy, you aren't off, and you certainly aren't broken beyond repair. You just need to turn the ship around and start paying attention to and loving the self. So, my challenge to you to wrap this up is this: what is one single step you will take today to pay attention to yourself and honor your own reality? Will you honor a boundary? Will you refuse to minimize a feeling of sadness or anger? Rebuilding self-trust starts with just one small act of self-validation. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today. Keep learning, keep honoring your reality, and I'll catch you next time.